Hello YouTube. Alright, let's continue the series of what William likes in knives. Today we're going to talk about handle material real quick. I've already talked about handle shapes, and that it is I will put a link to that video below, and my preference on shapes and why. So let's talk about material. I personally, I keep going back to a synthetic material like micarta, canvas micarta. I like a bead blasted micarta, something that is going to give you some texture when it's wet. The Shade Tree has some very nice micarta, like this coffee bag material. It just kind of gives it, some of it has different colors in it from the markings on the bags, but it's a burlap type of material that's soaked in aircraft resins, and it's very nice stuff. Or I mean, you can get just natural brown or black, green. I mean, you can get basic colors. There's also another company that does something called micarta, which if you've seen the prototype for the Master Woodsman, it has micarta. It's the lime greens and the blacks and everything meshed together, and it's got circles all in it and different designs and stuff. It's a real nice material. Very expensive, but it's very nice. So you can get a lot of different designs and stuff out of micarta. Now the next thing is natural materials. Like this is ebony, and if you use ebonies and some of the very dense woods like rosewood or desert ironwood, those are very dense handle material and very durable. But they will tend to be a little slick if they're wet, so just be aware of that. The other thing is crinite. You can do crinite, which I don't have any crinite here, but it has little swirls in it. It looks like Bakelite, if you remember that material. It's acrylic is what it is, and it's very durable. It don't stand heat very well, but as long as you keep it out of the fire, it should do all right. But I mean, handles is pretty much limited to your imagination. There's all kinds of options as far as colors and designs and things like that you can get. I would recommend something that's very dense, something that's very durable. I'm not into the pretty part of it. See, even my knives that I use, it's pretty much basic. This is a coffee bag from Shade Tree, and it gives me a tacky feel. I like the feel of his handle material. It's just a great durable product, and I don't highly polish my micarta. If you do, it gets slick. So the colors are not as vibrant on my handles as some of the other micarta that you see, is because of that. But again, there's a purpose behind it. If you highly polish micarta, it will get slick on you, and I like the tacky feel. Okay, I don't recommend bone or stag with my handle styles, because by the time you shape it and everything, you can't get the material thick enough to where when you shape my handle designs like this here with all the different contours and everything, then the antler material, you're going to get into the marrow of the handle material, and it just won't look good. Bone, you can't get bone thick enough to do these contours, so I don't recommend bone. So in a nutshell, the material I would recommend micarta of some type, unpolished, so it gives you that tacky feel. I will do anything that you want, of course, but some of the denser hardwoods, if you want a little bit prettier handle, than ebony or African blackwood, rosewood, um, the desert ironwoods. Those are very good handle materials. Maple, American maple is a good, very dense wood. It's not as dense as the African woods, but it's very dense. Osage, Osage is another very dense wood. It's kind of a yellow wood. And if you don't know what these woods are, just Google them, and the pictures will pop right up, and they'll give you a good look at what the woods look like. Koa wood out of Hawaii is a very nice dense wood. But me personally, I tend to stay with just plain micarta. Blacks, the browns, the greens. The shade tree is something that's new that I've been doing that I'm really impressed with. Now, pen style, I mean, you can, it's just a preference really. If you want to put mosaics in, mosaics is going to run you about $10 a pen. If you want one in the center, then that's $10. If you want all three of them, then that's $30. So just kind of give you an idea of what the pricing is today. Now, pricing fluctuates and it always changes. So it's kind of one of those, if you want, ask the price. On pens, there's also other styles of pens that I just use basically a 1/4 inch slick pen or a 1/8 inch brass stainless type pens for the most part, and they're epoxied in with the handles. So as of over the last 6 years that I've been doing this on a permanent basis, I've never had one yet fail that I know of. None of them's failed on me personally. So I get questioned a lot about Loveless pens and would I do that, and I've tried Loveless pens. The problem with Loveless pens is with all the swells and contours, Loveless pens, you have to leave a little indentation in the handle for the shoulders to grab onto when you screw them together. And when you're doing a lot of contours and things in the handle, then it doesn't leave you a lot of meat there for that shoulder to catch onto. So when you're grinding them, a lot of times you cut into the shoulder of it, and it actually weakens the handle, so you don't have as good a handle or as good a pen as you do with just a slick pen that's epoxy. So I don't do Loveless pens for that reason. Is because they don't work with my handles, my shape handles. The other type of pen is removable pens. I have never done any before. If you wanted to do that, then I would recommend just doing a natural, or not a natural, but a synthetic material that will not shrink or expand on you. Something that's going to be stable. I don't know why you'd want to remove a handle. Some people want to remove it to put stuff in the handle, but hey, I don't have stuff in my handles. My handles are, my blades are pretty much solid except for the smaller neck knives, which has a few little holes in it, but not enough to put anything in. I prefer a solid blade all the way through like this, especially for heavy use knives. If you have a skeleton handle that has stuff in it, then that weakens the knife. The less material or less steel you have, the weaker the knife is. So a lot of your heavier use knives and larger knives, they're all solid. So I don't see any purpose of having a removable scale. A lot of people think, well, I mean, with carbon steels, if you have a handle there, then water can get in there and rust your handle out if you don't take the scales off and clean them every now and then. My handles is completely epoxied from here to here. So there is 99.9% chance that water will not go through that epoxy. Now if you use a natural material, then I guess water could soak through the natural material at some point and go into the handle, but then you have all these liners and things that's going to stop it. So it's very little chance that water is going to get to the steel through the handle, okay, or underneath the handle. So I don't really see a purpose in a removable scale. If you want one, I'll make you one, but that's my opinion, is that I don't see a purpose in it. Also with the removable handles, you have to leave shoulders on the scale in order for it to grab, to hold. And a lot of times with the contours on my handles that I've talked about, there's just not much meat there for it to hold on to. So again, I don't recommend removable scales at all, but if you insist, then we probably need to change the design of the handles to fit that that requirement of removable scales. So me personally, I wouldn't recommend it. The other thing is liners. I get a lot of questions about liners, and as you can see from this, so you have the ebony wood, then you have a very thin red in between, so that's another little thin liner. You see the red? And then there will be a thicker white on top of that, okay, and so the blade will sit like so. Okay, so this white and red is what liners are. Now people have asked me what the purpose is. Now if you're using natural materials, that helps keep the handles from shrinking and swelling, and it helps hold the handles together. That's one purpose of liners. The other purpose is decorative. It just makes it pretty. Now if you get into the thicker ones like this, sometimes the handle material comes, see this lime green, some people call it zombie green liner on this shade tree handle is 1/8 inch, and the reason I do that is not only is it decorative and kind of outlines and accents the handle, but it also thickens the handle. If you have very thick hands or large hands and you like, or long fingers, and you like to have something that your hand wraps around and you have more purchase or more grip, then you may want to consider liners. Now the thicker liners is about $20, depends on what kind of liners you want, and the thinner liners is about $10. So just kind of give you an idea of what the pricing is today. I think that's about it on handles. I tend to I like thicker handles. I like a lot of contour so that I can grip the knife in many different positions comfortably and securely. And that video on the handle shapes will be able to describe and explain those why I make the handles the way I do. Of course, I can make anything that you want, but me personally, this is the handle shape or variation that I like, especially on the larger knives, so I can choke up on it and get a good purchase. Okay, so in a nutshell, I like a thicker handle. So my handles a lot of times are a little bit thicker. I like a lot of contours, palm swells, so that I can purchase that on the blade in many different positions securely and comfortably. And I like a synthetic material, such a very dense and durable material like a micarta or something like that that's unpolished, so that it gives you a little bit of tackiness and grip. That's what I tend to use mostly. I've tried doing the pretty thing, and I just can't do pretty for some reason. I don't know, but that's what I prefer. You'll see a few mosaics on some of my knives. I like a little decorative there, here and there, but that's it. That's pretty much it. Need to get out in the woods, get in the backyard, whittle on a stick. If you have the opportunity, and take a child with you, and Teach that child a little bit of this outdoor stuff and how to handle a knife and build a fire. If you do, be sure and take plenty of Band-Aids and lots of knives. We'll catch you again soon.